example, someone that feels his stomach is very upset and goes and vomits on purpose, because he just is very uncomfortable with this upset stomach feeling that he has. So he goes and vomits on purpose, which invalidates his prayer, which is his fasting, which is haram. And it breaks his fast. But they just didn't want to have the same thing to say this haram, and someone that actually spouses that would go and have sexual relationship in the middle of the day where Allah prevented. That's a way bigger haram, because there was a reason with that turning stomach. He just couldn't take it, but there was a reason of sickness and what have you. But it wasn't too much to break his fast, but he just couldn't take it. So he just wanted to do something that would release his, whereas sexual relationship can be very well contained and can be very well controlled, and someone should not really compromise the day of fast in Ramadan just because they wanted to fulfill their whims and desires, especially that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with his mercy and wisdom, allowed those spouses to have relationship together after they break their fast, which means at night. So there is, alhamdulillah, a way out. So they just wanted to make sure that those two actions don't take the same label, haram and haram. So that's the only reason why they detailed it more. Number one, the voluntarily fasting of a woman without her husband's permission. So it is haram with consensus of the scholars for a woman to insist on fasting. That is the optional fast, that is, where she knows, for example, her husband is on travel, he is away from her, and they miss each other, and he's gonna come back naturally with spousal relationship when a husband is far away from his wife and it's been a while and they've been talking and they miss each other. The very natural way as he comes back that they meet together, they have their relationship together, as spousal relationship, that is. But she does not, she risks all that because she does not want to break her habit of fasting on Thursday, for example. And it happens that he's arriving on Thursday. So with that, the scholars see that it becomes haram on her to actually fast on that day, the optional fast, because she's doing something good here, but she's risking something way bigger, and that is the damage that it could happen between the spouses. Because it's not about just the relationship. He's going to really resent that action, meaning that shaitan will get into him thinking that she doesn't care. She really just doesn't care about him being away from her and being far away from her. And maybe shaitan will get into him that she doesn't miss you and she doesn't really love you. She doesn't really care much for you. If she really cared, she would not have really fasted. And all that. So Allah didn't want to have that major damage. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forsake his own rights of somebody submitting to him because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end is not in need of our worship actions, but he does not want us to have bad relationships together. So he let it go. He said, you know what, even though that fasting on the day of Thursday is great, but I don't want it to risk a spousal relationship. So do not fast without your husband's permission in general, or if you know that he's coming back and what have you, don't risk it, so you don't have to fast. Second, fasting on the day of doubt, that we talked, that's the day before Ramadan, the 30th day of Sha'ban. If people doubt whether it is the beginning of Ramadan or not, we talked briefly on that. And also even if it happens to be a day. Now, some of the scholars said if someone has the habit to fast all the time, all year round, of Mondays and Thursdays, and that day of shak, the doubt, comes before Ramadan, a person is fasting not because they want to make sure that they're fasting Ramadan, they're just fasting, continuing their fast of Thursday. That's fine, as long as the intention is that they're continuing the fast of their habit. It's not the intention that, I'm not sure if today is Ramadan or not, just to be in the safe side, I'm going to fast it anyway. No, we can't do that because that's going to make Ramadan maybe more days than what it's supposed to be. And then we did not follow the instructions of how to start the month of Ramadan, to see the moon and to see the crescent. Three, fasting for a woman who is menstruating or experiencing post childbirth bleeding. Alhamdulillah, I think that's for granted. We haven't seen really some women that they don't understand that. So it's coming, alhamdulillah, by default that this hukum, at least number three, is known to all sisters. Number four, fasting the second half of Sha'ban, which includes the day of doubt, though it becomes permissible if it is the habit of a person to voluntarily fast Mondays and Thursdays. So I want to give you now the answer of some people will ask, we are really confused. We have authentic hadith that says that Prophet ﷺ used to fast a lot of Sha'ban, almost as if he is fasting the whole month. And then we have also authentic hadith that says that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, do not fast anything of Sha'ban after mid of Sha'ban. So people say this is confusing. Why is our deen so confusing? It's not really our deen is confusing, but it's again the level of knowledge that we have. We just don't understand it well. That's why it seems to be confusing. For any student of knowledge like yours who go through these kind of simple courses, they will understand, and then it makes all the sense. And this is where you become an advocate to defend your deen among your own fellow Muslims. Is that it's not confusing. So our deen is not confusing. It's just us, we do not understand it well. This deen came to accommodate everyone. And it's really hard to accommodate everyone with one direction. So it has to be different directions depending on the person's habit and personality. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in general gave general rule. That's called mutlaq, general rule. You know what? After the mid of Sha'ban, do not fast. Just get yourself ready for Ramadan and get recharged and get yourself up and running. So don't fast after mid of Sha'ban. That's general. Then he has other saying that comes to specify the general. It does not nullify the general, but it comes to specify a general ruling. So he says that he said that, but he's fasting almost all the month of Sha'ban, and some of the Sahaba are. So why is because what applies is that Prophet ﷺ says, إِلَّا فِي صَوْمٍ يَصُومُهُ أَحَدُكُمْ, except for a habit of fasting that one of you does anyway. So now, how do we combine? We do not nullify, but we combine. So general rule, no fasting after mid of Sha'ban. Specific rule, that the general rule does not apply to the specific rule if there is a habit of that person to do so. So we bring an example of someone that fasts Mondays and Thursdays throughout the year, fast the 3 white days of the month throughout the year. Now, the general rule of not fasting after mid Sha'ban does not apply to that person. It only applies to the one that does not have a habit, just got emotionally touched. Oh, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to fast almost the whole month of Sha'ban. I want to copy him. And they get rushed into it and they fast, and then they enter the month of Ramadan. They get really exhausted, weak, they get sick, and they end up breaking few days of fast during the month of Ramadan, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want that. Same thing when we go to Hajj, a lot of brothers and sisters get really, really emotional and very excited to do a lot of umrahs. They said, we only come like here once. And I always tell them, don't do it. No, Sheikh, we just came all the way. We want to do it on behalf of my mother, my father. The problem when we say don't do it, not because we want to prevent. If you had the habit to do that all the time, then do it. But you just came in, you have enough health to push you throughout the season of Hajj. What happens is that they do multiple umrahs, they get all their energy exhausted. They enter the days of Hajj with weak health. They end up getting sick and then they end up missing out on many of the Hajj rulings. See, that's exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want that. A one that has the habit, it's not going to make any difference. I have the habit to fast anyway, so it's not going to harm me when I fast more. So that's in general how you apply the hadith together where they don't contradict. The general hadith here applies to someone that doesn't have a habit of fasting. Don't fast after the Shaban. Someone that has the habit of fasting all the time, it would not get him weak. It would not, drain him from energy. Then keep going. Fast even after mid of Shaban, no problem. Now, number 5, fasting for one who fears a decline in his health through his fast. So that's also haram for someone that knows that he's not well at all, and he's feeling sick, and they just want to push themselves. It's just that more of not dedication, but more of stubbornness, is that, you know what, I'm not gonna break fast. I want to fast, but you're not feeling well, and you're just gonna make it worse. I'm not gonna break fast. It's not me who would break a day of Ramadan, and they get really stubborn, and they end up doing it anyway, and they end up losing on the days of Ramadan because they get really sick, and instead of losing one or two, they end up maybe losing the whole month of Ramadan, not being able to fast because they have to go through extensive care and medications and taking medications. So when is fasting disliked? Not haram, but disliked. Is there fasting that is disliked? Yes, fasting every day is disliked because whether we like it or not, it's going to drain us from our energy. That's not good. And you don't feel enthusiastic to fast anymore. It's just the same thing happening every day. You don't get recharged. You don't enjoy, as we said, the sweetness of ibadah and the worship. Second, singling out Friday. We should not just single out Friday to say, I'm going to fast Friday just because it's a blessed day. We can't. You have to, like, if you need to, you fast a day before. So if you fast Thursday and then you want to fast Friday, that's no problem. So singling out Saturday. Same thing applies. We can't fast on Saturday by itself. You need to fast a day before or a day after. However, there are scholars that actually says it is haram to fast on Saturday. You just don't fast on Saturday unless it's obligatory, unless it's Ramadan. That's it. Fasting the day of doubt, last day of Shaban, we talked about this. So why is it here with the disliked? Because remember when I told you, some scholars do not consider it haram. See, this is for you as a homework. You apply of what I told you. In 10 seconds, you have, inshallah ta'ala, the answer. So your homework for 10 seconds to answer yourself. Is this contradicting? We just had in the slide before that the day of doubt before Ramadan is haram. And here on this slide, it says it's makruh, it's disliked. How? This is contradicting? No, it's not contradicting. Apply the same ruling that I just taught you moments before. Okay, so the answer is, inshallah, hopefully all of you got the answer, is that it is haram if someone does not have a habit of fasting optional days in Sha'ban or Mondays and Thursdays and what have you. The general rule applies, it becomes haram. If they do have the habit to do so, then it's not haram. It's not, because they have the habit of doing Mondays and Thursdays and the 3 days of every month. However, when it comes to the last day, the same scholars say, but it's not favorable, it's disliked, because there is an issue here. So don't do the last day. Khalas, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your dedication, just take a break. So, but it's not haram, but it's disliked. If someone does it, it's not a problem, but it's not, something that they need to do because it comes with this conflict. Voluntarily fasting. What is voluntarily nafil fasting? Voluntarily seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through that which is not obligatory. So any nafil, voluntarily act, is when you do something to connect closer to Allah, but you're not obligated to do so. That's called optional nafil. What are the days of voluntarily fasting? One, fasting every other day. That's one option. Fasting 3 days of each month, preferably the 3 white days when we have full moon, which are the 13th, 14th, and 15th of each lunar month. 3, fasting Mondays and Thursdays of every week. 4, fasting 6 days in Shawwal. And 5, fasting the day of Arafah for those not performing Hajj. 6, fasting the 8 days of Dhul Hijjah before the day of Arafah. 4, might make a mistake. So it's not for the Hajj. It's really for those who are not performing the Hajj, because they're not performing Hajj. For the Hajj, who intends to do the Hajj, they can, but it's not, we cannot say it's a sunnah. It's not something that has a dalil on it that they fast the days, but they can, they definitely can, no problem. And some scholars, they said, no, they do, it's a sunnah because there is nothing that says otherwise. To get ready and to be recharged is something that's more of a judgment. So that's why it's on this slide. So we are going to say, because of the disagreement, it's preferable in general, especially for those who don't perform Hajj. But is it really preferable for those who are intending to do Hajj? Again, it's a judgment. Some scholars say no, they're going to get weak and what have you. Some scholars say no, they won't. We don't have really a specified dalil. So general, when we have, what is the answer? I told you, like in the sessions before, the answer is you. You are the best judge. You know your body well and you know yourself very well. You gotta take the sweetness of ibadah. If fasting is not an issue for you, then by all means, yes. If fasting is an issue for you, then don't risk it and don't get into Hajj season while you are weak. Fasting Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, and the day before it or the day after it, or the three of them, 9, 10, and 11. Fasting the 4 sacred months, like any days of the days of Rajab, of the month of Rajab, which stands alone. The month of Rajab is one of the sacred months. And then 3 sacred months come right after each other, which is Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, which is the last month of the lunar calendar, and then Muharram, the very, very first month of our Hijri calendar. And then fasting Sha'ban, as we just talked about it, fasting Sha'ban or the days of Sha'ban, mashallah, is considered to be also from the optional preferable days of fasting. So that will conclude our session for today, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to stop the sharing. And inshallah, if you have any questions, so all we're doing now, yesterday, today, is getting yourself ready for the concept of fasting, getting into the month, which days. We have not got into detailed ruling yet. So as we, dive deeper into the month of Ramadan, we get into the rulings. But this introduction is very important for you to distinguish between mandatory, optional, nafil, fard, contradiction when we have several hadith and ayat. How do we do this? Because that's going to be very crucial when we talk about many of the rulings about making up days, all these favorite questions that you have. Somebody that really mess out on some of the days of Ramadan, especially for the sisters who have like several excuses to miss the days of Ramadan, like pregnancy, like nursing, like the monthly cycle and what have you, or giving birth and then a fast right after. So these are all rulings and ahkam that it needs this introduction as we're diving deeper and deeper into the rulings, inshallah. Inshallah, if you have any questions, you can send it now, uh, or you can unmute yourself and just speak your question or say your question, whatever, inshallah ta'ala. So I have a question, inshallah. Let me read it really quick. So it says if you make a mistake and swallow some food unintentionally while preparing iftar meal 5 minutes before Maghrib, does that invalidate your fast for that day? So, 5 minutes before Maghrib won't make any difference into the answer of this question. The key word in this question, as students of knowledge, you look at the keyword of any question. It says unintentionally. If the act was unintentional, then with the mercy, yani with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to really cover all of us. That would not harm any of your worship acts. And that can be applied on all other worship acts. Anything unintentional, then you are not accounted for. So a mother is trying to prepare the meal for her family, and by mistake, she's really rushing to get everything together. And just by mistake, she forgot and she just resorted to her habit of tasting the food, and she ended up tasting the food. So whether that happened 5 minutes before iftar or many hours before iftar, it won't make any difference. So the fast is absolutely correct. There is no need to make up anything or do anything or pay any kafara or any expiation. And that is by consensus of all scholars. There is no disagreement on that. Second question. So the question says, if a person entered Sha'ban, so the month of Sha'ban is in, and still had some days of missed fasts to make up. So that person had previous missed days of the previous Ramadan still to make up. Can they still do it in the last part of Sha'ban? So they entered the month of Sha'ban and they have uh, uh, like several missed days. So they started making up those days because they are now squeezed into finishing all these missed days before the new Ramadan comes in. So there is now a legitimate Islamic reason why they're rushing, because they want to finish before the start of another month, because there is a big discussion on that someone should not delay making up those missed days and allow themselves to enter into a new Ramadan without finishing the previous missed days of the previous month of Ramadan. So the key word here is that they're rushing to finish those days. So the question continues to say, can they still do it in the last part of Shaban and on the day of Shak if they were not in the habit of fasting those days? The answer is yes, because those people, this person is making up missed days, which is obligatory, and obligatory worship acts do not take the same rulings of optional. So yes, they can, even if they don't have the habit to fast, they can make up those days because they are restricted now. That's their only option, is to push themselves before the beginning of the new month of Ramadan to finish all the previous missed days of the previous Ramadan. Yes, they can fast in the last part of Sha'ban, and yes, they can even fast the last day, which is the doubt day, the Shak day, the doubtful one, with no problem, because it's a mandatory and obligatory fast. Now, the other question is, so about the intention of Ramadan, So we know that this is a must, and as we are learning now, it is a must, the intention of the thing. The question says, can I take it? Do I have to take it every night, every day before suhoor or what have you? Or am I taking it one time for the whole month? Again, this is more of an ijtihad. It's just a judgment, and it's a verdict that came with the scholars. So both options are valid. However, the more preferable one that is more cautious is to do it on a daily basis. So what I would do, I would take that general intention before the beginning of the month on the first day, the first night, that is, first night. Like we started this year on Friday. I would take the intention Thursday night that I'm fasting the whole month of Ramadan, inshallah, and nothing would stop me and prevent me except something beyond my control. That's a general intention. And then also take it every night. If you do miss it one night, your general intention for the whole month would be sufficient enough. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So that's the way to do it, inshallah. Then we have a question that says, what are your thoughts on children under the age of puberty fasting? So inshallah ta'ala, we are going to cover that in our discussion. But in general, they're not obligated. And we have the habit to start training them, because it would not be wise to neglect them and not to train them until they get to the age of puberty. That's way too late for someone to be trained. So fasting needs to be trained exactly like salah. At any age you see your child is ready to do any type of fasting, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. And you gradually build it up until they fast half a day, until they fast a full day, with your encouragement, of course, and making them definitely love fasting and love the competition to fast with their siblings and what have you. But we should never push them to do so, because again, Allah created us differently. If we end up being emotionally touched um, and get really motivated, and we get very excited for our children to do so, and then we kind of push them beyond their ability, we are risking the fact that they might flip on the other extreme of resenting the concept of fasting. So we should not do that. This is very important, that we should not risk, inshallah. So again, you are your best judge, and inshallah ta'ala, you know your child well. So um, you do your best, inshallah, of judgment. But definitely do not go to the other extreme. Oh, they're just kids. Oh, they're just kids. Oh, they're just kids. And you relax all the rulings of Islam. You don't train them on salah. You don't train them on fasting. You don't train them on any other worship act. You don't train young girls on just having the habit of putting on hijab here and there and having decent clothes, and not to wear clothes that is kind of indecent, even though it's not haram on her, she's still it. But we don't do that. We don't wear these kind of short shorts. We don't do this. We don't do that in general, without pushing it, but definitely not to go to the extreme of relaxing until they get to the age of puberty. And now all of a sudden we're asking them, you know what, you need to pray. Oh, you need to put on your hijab. Oh, you need to fast. Oh, you need to actually go to Hajj now and whatever. It's not going to be easy on them, because they're 15 years old, 16 years old. They're old enough that they haven't been trained for this. It's like all of a sudden now you want me to fast. All of a sudden now you want me to commit to Salatul Fajr, wake up early in the morning with no issues, and you've been neglecting me for all these years. You haven't, trained me to get up for Fajr for all these years, and now all of a sudden you want me to become very disciplined and like a clock. Just get up, make wudu, and pray Fajr. And we get really upset with them if they don't do that. So they flip on the other extreme of resenting the actions of worship in our deen, which is something that we absolutely don't want to do. Mm. So I think the last question I covered, inshallah. Yani mainly says how hard do we push? Again, my answer is you are the best judge. Wallahi, I'm saying that and I am very adamant about it. It is not the sheikh in Saudi, it is not the sheikh in Turkey, it is not the imam in the US, it is not even your local imam that can tell you, you know what, don't let them slack off, just push them. Because subhanallah, Allah created us differently. You have, and this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have some imams who've been trained to be, this is who they are. They've been very disciplined and they've been very, very, very rigid on things. It's like, khalas, I do it this way. And they can, mashallah, they come to be able to do it. But the problem that they don't realize that their fatwas and their verdicts are reflecting their personalities. So someone comes to ask of something that we have flexibility. My girl is 12, 13 years old. She hasn't reached the age of puberty, and I've been training her to put on hijab, but she's kind of not really settled with it. No, and the sheikh goes really ballistic on her. You know, 13 years old, this crazy. No, she has to put on hijab, and you know, if she doesn't put on hijab, you need to ground her. Don't bring her anything and whatever. Your child, your kid, your son, 13 years old, because that's his life and it's been working with him. And then you have other imams who are really on the other spectrum. They've been raised into a very relaxed environment. So everything comes to them relaxed. So most of their verdicts are very relaxed. So it comes very relaxed. 12 years old, she's just a child. Don't push it. Khalas, yani you tried. Don't even open the subject of hijab now. Um, she's Imam, she's just fasting just like 4 hours. And I know that she can push herself more or he can push himself more, whatever. Push themselves. Why push themselves? Khalas, it's good. 4 hours, it's good. That's who he is. He comes from a relaxed environment. This is who he is. This Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us differently. So when we have that flexible spectrum, you are your best judge. All you need to do, ask your imam on the rulings. So your imam will tell you it becomes a must at puberty age. That's the Islamic ruling. Can I train them before? Yes, you can and you should. That's the Islamic ruling. Like Salah, train them at the age of 7. So you got the Islamic rulings. Now, how to apply it, when to apply it, to what extent you should apply it, that is all yours. You are the imam. You are the sheikh. You are the mufti, honestly. And by all means, that is coming from an instruction from our beloved Prophet Muhammad. So it's not like made up by me, because Prophet Muhammad clearly gave that instruction. He said, استفتي قلبك ولو أفتاك المفتون. يعني he said, when it comes to this flexible, as long as you are within the Islamic boundaries and rulings and verdict, he says, you got the answer, ask your heart, ask yourself. Meaning that what's best for you? You know yourself better than anybody. You know your children better than anybody. So within that boundaries, ask yourself. You are the mufti. That's actually the instructions of your beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So inshallah ta'ala, with that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we are done for today, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah. So I got a suggestion that next class would be parenting, inshallah. May Allah gives us the strength to be all, wallahi, we are all in this, by the way. I tell you this, and we're all struggling. Because again, subhanallah, we think that if we took, we definitely need to take these series, parenting series, experiences from others and whatever. But would that be the magic solution? Absolutely not. And even knowing our own kids, subhanallah, and I know all of you who are parents, we have, by the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, several kids. Each child is different, subhanallah. Same dad, same mom, same genetics, absolutely different personalities. different attitudes. The way that they want to push themselves for the deen is different. You have somebody who's very excited to learn from you, and someone is just giving you the hardest time, and all these looks and all these body gestures and resentment, and and you got the others who are just delighted. They're just on top of your head. Okay, teach me something. Oh, I want to give. Can I recite the Quran for you? And it's like you're so busy. Okay, Habibi, you recited this several times. Okay, yalla, go ahead. No, I want to recite it more and more. And you've got their siblings, same dad, same mom, but they're different. So you gotta again apply all these rulings differently, and we should never ever compare, and we should not tell one like, look at your brother, look at your sister, because that's going to bring nothing but frictions among them. They're just going to start resenting themselves, and at least the child who's not up to the challenge would start really resenting his own siblings and kind of being very jealous of the fact that he's always being compared to them in a negative way. You're not up to the task. You're not up to the level. Look at them. They're mashallah. They are huffaz. They are doing this. They are doing this. But you always give me hard time. You're always dragging yourself. You don't like the deen. I don't know what to tell you. I sent you to an Islamic school. I've done all this for you, and I am ready to sacrifice my time for you. I sit with you, and you're always, and that doesn't help. Honestly, that doesn't help at all. Not from only an Islamic point of view, even from psychological point of view. Even our psychiatrists, our Muslim psychiatrists, are saying that's not. It just doesn't help. But again, remember, going to the other extreme doesn't help either. For you to say, well, they're just gonna grow out of it. One day they will appreciate. No, no, we have to also follow up and be on top of their heads and guide them on whatever, but we just have to be very delicate and very careful how we do it, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan wa barakallahu feekum for your dedication. May Allah reward you. We'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow to continue the rulings on fasting, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you tomorrow, inshallah.